There is a moment in every tragedy when you realize the victim knew it was coming long before anyone else believed her. The fear in her voice was ignored. The warnings were dismissed, and the final cry for help came too late. In Minneapolis, a young mother named Mariah Samuels opened her Facebook app and told the world she was being stalked. Her hands were shaking. She had already called the police. She had already filed a protection order. She did everything a woman is told to do when danger's closing in. But hours after that post, while her two children were still inside the house, a man she once loved walked out of the shadows. He had just come out of prison after 15 years behind bars. He should not have been near her. He should not have had a gun. Yet he raised it and fired 10 times at the woman who had begged for help. 10 shots that silenced her voice forever. 10 shots that proved her fear was real. This is the story of a system that failed her, and a mother who saw her death coming long before anyone listened. This case is not just another headline. It is a reminder of how quickly a cry for help can turn into a funeral. As you watch this story, I want you to think about the moments when Mariah tried to save herself. The moments when she reached out. The moments when she begged for protection. The moments when she knew something terrible was coming, but had no idea the danger was already outside her door. If you are new here, take a second to subscribe. We tell stories that matter, stories that expose the truth, stories that honor the victims who trusted the system and were still left alone. Subscribing helps this story reach more people, and it lets families know their loved ones are not forgotten. Tap the notification bell so you never miss these deep cases, because every week we bring you real stories told with respect and truth. Before we continue, tell us in the comments where you are watching from. Your comment helps push this video so more people learn what happened to Mariah. And while you comment, let this question sit with you. How many warnings must a woman give before someone believes she is not being dramatic? She is being hunted. Mariah Samuels was a mother who carried the weight of her world quietly. She was raising her children, holding down her home, and trying to rebuild her life after ending a relationship that had become frightening. Her friends described her as warm and protective. The kind of woman who checked on everyone else even when she was the one hurting. But behind her smile, fear had become a routine. She told close friends that her ex was watching her, following her, showing up in places he should not be. At first, people around her thought he was just struggling to let go. They had no idea how dark his past truly was. Her ex, David Wright, had just walked out of prison after serving 15 years. 15 years that did nothing to calm the anger inside him. People who knew him said the time behind bars hardened him. He was jealous, unpredictable, and obsessed with control. When Mariah left him, something inside him snapped. He started calling at strange hours. He sent threats. He would appear outside her home and sit there, sometimes in a car, sometimes on a bicycle, always watching, always close. Mariah reported these moments. She told the police she was scared. She filed a protection order. She took every step the system teaches women to take. But even with the order in place, his presence kept getting closer. One night she told a family member that she felt like she was walking on borrowed time. She said she could feel danger circling her. She said she knew he was coming. The people who loved her begged her to stay inside and stay alert. She tried. But how do you protect yourself from someone who believes you belong to them? How do you sleep when you know a man with a violent past is studying your routine? Every vibration of her phone became a warning. Every sound outside her house felt like a message. She was living in a countdown she could not stop. In the days leading up to her death, Mariah's fear became something you could feel through her words. She reached out to a domestic violence advocate and explained the threats. She described how he grabbed her, how he choked her, how he pressed a gun to her. These were not small incidents. These were signs of a man who had already crossed every line. The advocate helped her file for a protection order. A judge approved it. The papers were served. On the surface, it seemed like things were finally in motion to protect her. But Mariah knew better. She knew a piece of paper cannot stop a man who believes he owns you. She told friends that he was still calling, still texting, still showing up. She saved messages that made her hands shake. She told police he was violating the order. She begged them to see what she saw. The fear in her voice was real, but the system moved slow. Officers noted her complaints. Reports were filed, but nothing changed. She still felt alone. On the morning of her final day, she picked up her phone and posted online about being stalked. She even said she did not feel protected. She said she was scared. People commented with support, but none of them knew how close danger already was. While she typed those words, he was already planning his next move. He was angry she exposed him. He was angry she tried to break free. He was angry that a woman he once controlled was now asking for help publicly. That morning she called police again. She told them he was harassing her through text. She told them something felt wrong. Officers came to her home. She tried to sound brave. At one point, the report even said she told them she felt safe. But anyone who has ever been trapped in fear knows what that means. Safe does not mean protected. Safe means pretending because you hope the danger will pass. Safe means masking the panic because you do not want to sound dramatic. Safe means you already know nobody believes how serious it is. Mariah watched the officers leave. Her street fell quiet. She stood in her doorway with a feeling she could not shake, a feeling every instinct in her body understood. She was running out of time. Mariah spent the last hours of her life trying to act normal for her children. She made breakfast. She checked her messages. She tried to settle her nerves, but the tension in her chest would not lift. She kept glancing out the window, expecting to see him appear. That kind of fear is not loud. It sits behind your ribs and waits. She felt it with every breath. Her Facebook post kept getting reactions. People told her to stay strong. People told her to be careful. But none of them understood how immediate the danger was. The person she feared most was already close. He was watching her movements from a distance. He knew her schedule. He knew when she left the house. He knew where she parked her car. He had studied her life like a target. The protection order did not matter to him. The police report did not matter. Her fear only made him feel more in control. Witnesses later said they saw a man on a bicycle circling the block. He kept coming back, slow, steady, almost patient. People assumed he was just passing through. No one connected him to the woman inside the house. No one realized he was waiting for the right moment, the right angle, the right silence. Inside her home, Mariah felt that silence pressing against her. She checked her phone one more time. She told someone she felt uneasy. She told another person she thought he was nearby. She even mentioned she did not know if she would ever feel truly safe again. Those were not dramatic words. Those were the words of a woman who knew she had done everything possible to stay alive, yet still felt death walking toward her. Her children were inside, unaware of the danger building outside their door. They laughed, they played, they trusted their mother to keep them safe. Mariah tried her best to stay composed. She did not want her fear to reach them. She did not want them to see how close she was to breaking. So she held it in. She kept moving. She kept hoping help would arrive before he did. But the truth is chilling. Help had already left, and he had already arrived. The moment Mariah stepped outside her home, the air felt different. Survivors often say their body senses danger before their mind can name it. She walked toward her car, holding her phone, trying to convince herself the worst was over. Maybe the police visit scared him. Maybe today would be quiet. Maybe she could finally breathe. But as she approached the driver's side door, a shadow moved at the end of the street. She turned her head slightly, just enough to catch the shape of a man rolling toward her on a bicycle. Her stomach dropped. She recognized the posture, the way he leaned forward, the way he stared. It was David, fresh out of prison after 15 years, a man who had already beaten her, choked her, threatened her, a man who promised he would get her back for leaving him. Witnesses later said everything happened in seconds. There was no argument, no warning, no chance to run. He got off the bicycle with a coldness that made people freeze. His face was empty, not angry, not emotional, empty, as if he had already decided her fate hours before he even arrived. Mariah backed toward her car door, but she did not scream. She knew screaming would not save her. She knew he came prepared. She knew he was carrying a gun. She had told people that he used one to threaten her in the past. The protection order could not stop the weapon in his hand. He raised the gun toward her chest. Time slowed. She lifted her hand slightly as if her body was still begging for one more chance to live. One more chance to see her children grow. One more chance to breathe air that was not filled with fear. Then the shots began. The first bullet hit her and forced her backward. The second pushed the air out of her lungs. The third made her collapse against the side of her car. Witnesses said they heard her gasp, a soft sound, a sound that will follow them for the rest of their lives. He kept firing, over and over, 10 shots in total. 10 times he pulled the trigger. 10 times he aimed at a woman who did nothing but try to escape his violence. Shell casings scattered across the ground like pieces of a life shattered in seconds. Inside the house, her children heard the gunfire. They ran to the window. They screamed for their mother. But by then, she was already on the ground, motionless, her phone still in her hand. David did not run like a panicked man. He walked back to his bicycle calmly. He pedaled away as if he had just finished something he believed he had the right to do. No guilt, no hesitation, no remorse. Mariah lay there alone. The same street where she begged for help, the same sidewalk where she prayed for safety, the same home she had tried to protect. A mother of two, silenced on a quiet morning by the very man the system failed to stop. The moment the gunfire stopped, the street fell into a silence that felt wrong. Neighbors stepped outside, confused, frightened, hoping they misheard what had just shattered the morning. But the truth was lying on the pavement in front of them. Mariah's body was still. Her phone was beside her hand. The same phone she used to report him. The same phone she used to ask for protection. The same phone she used to write the Facebook post that warned the world she was being hunted. A neighbor rushed toward her, but stopped halfway. Some said they froze because they could not believe this was happening to a woman who had asked for help so many times. Others said they were scared he might come back. Everyone felt helpless. Everyone felt too late. They watched her chest struggle for air. They watched her eyes lose focus. They watched the life slip out of her, piece by piece. Inside the house, her children were crying. They were old enough to understand something terrible had happened. They were young enough to not understand why. One of them tried to go outside, screaming for their mother. A neighbor pulled them back and held them close. That sound, that scream, is something the community still remembers. It is the kind of sound that breaks through walls and stays with you for the rest of your life. Police arrived within minutes, but the scene they walked into was already a tragedy that no officer could reverse. They found Mariah on the ground, unresponsive. They tried CPR. They tried every measure they could, but the damage was too severe. 10 shots, 10 wounds, 10 reminders that she had been right all along about the danger stalking her. Medics arrived and attempted to save her, but she was pronounced dead shortly after. The moment the words were spoken, people around the scene cried. Some cried loudly. Some cried silently. Some cried because they remembered her Facebook post from only hours earlier. Some cried because they knew she did everything she could to survive, yet still died in the exact way she feared. When officers stepped into her home to check on the children, they saw toys on the floor, breakfast plates on the table, a normal morning disrupted by violence. They saw two children who would never see their mother walk through the door again. They saw a family destroyed by a man who should never have been near her. Word spread through the neighborhood. Messages spread through Facebook and group chats. People kept repeating the same line. She tried to get help. She asked for help. She begged for help. And still, she died alone in her driveway. It was a tragedy that did not happen in secret. It happened in plain sight. It happened after warnings, after reports, after a protection order, after a Facebook post saying she was being stalked, and after a system that should have protected her failed her completely. Hours after the shooting, police tracked down David Wright. He had pedaled calmly away from the scene, acting like nothing had happened. But his actions caught up with him quickly. Officers found him in a nearby neighborhood. He did not resist arrest. He did not cry. He did not ask for mercy. According to reports, he looked almost bored, like the world had already accepted the violence he had just committed. At the station, the interrogation began. Wright did not deny what he had done. He confessed. He admitted to stalking Mariah. He admitted to violating the protection order. He admitted to planning the attack for hours. According to investigators, he said something chilling. He wanted to punish her for posting online about being scared, for daring to expose him, for daring to exist outside his control. He shot her 10 times. 10 shots for speaking the truth. 10 shots for asking for help. 10 shots that ended the life of a mother of two. His calmness terrified everyone in the room. It was not the kind of fear that comes from being caught. It was the kind of emptiness that only comes from someone who believes violence is a solution. He told investigators he did not intend to flee. He did not express remorse. He said the act itself was the point, the message, the proof that he could do what he wanted. Friends and family of Mariah were informed, and the grief was immediate, crushing. They described Wright as someone who had always been controlling and jealous, someone who could not let go, someone who, despite 15 years in prison, had returned with the same dangerous patterns, now armed and ready to act. The police confirmed that the protection order had been in effect. They confirmed that Mariah had called multiple times, warning them of his harassment, and they confirmed what many feared. The system failed her. Wright walked freely until the moment he decided to take her life. The warnings were there, the laws were there, the reports were there, but enforcement and urgency were not. And in the end, it cost Mariah everything. The city of Minneapolis was shaken. People demanded answers. People demanded justice. People demanded to know how a man with a violent history, just released from prison, could so easily get near a woman who had done everything to survive. And in that outrage, Mariah's story became more than just a case. It became a warning, a wake-up call, a question to every community. How many mothers must die before we truly listen? The news of Mariah's death spread quickly through her neighborhood, her city, and online. People were shocked, horrified, and heartbroken. Social media lit up with messages remembering her, supporting her children, and questioning how this could have happened. Friends posted screenshots of her last Facebook post, the one where she warned everyone she was being stalked. The post had a haunting clarity now. Hours later, it became a message written by someone who knew she would not survive the day. Community leaders and domestic violence advocates spoke out. They said the case revealed systemic failures. The protection order should have been enough to keep Wright away. The multiple calls to police should have triggered faster, more protective measures. Instead, Mariah was left vulnerable, left alone, left with nothing but fear. And in that vulnerability, a mother of two was killed in broad daylight. Vigils were held for her children and family. People brought flowers, candles, and notes of remembrance. They wept for a woman they had never met but whose story touched them deeply. They wept because the warning signs had been there. They wept because the system had let her down. They wept because in a moment of routine fear, a nightmare became real. Her children's grief became a symbol of the tragedy. They were too young to understand why their mother, who had tried everything to stay safe, was taken from them. Schools, neighbors, and friends rallied around them. But nothing could erase the image of that driveway. Nothing could erase the sound of the 10 shots that ended her life. Nothing could erase the day the world learned how fragile safety can be, even when a woman follows every rule to survive. The public outcry grew louder. People demanded stricter enforcement of protection orders. They demanded accountability from police officers. They demanded changes in how the system responds to threats from men recently released from prison with histories of violence. Mariah's death was now more than a single tragedy. It became a story of warning, of justice delayed, and of a community shaken to its core. After David Wright's arrest, prosecutors moved quickly to charge him with second-degree murder and illegal possession of a firearm. Court documents revealed the full scope of his stalking and harassment leading up to Mariah's death. They described the threats, the repeated violations of the protection order, and his obsessive behavior. They described how a woman who did everything she could to survive, to protect herself and her children, was still left exposed. Investigators pieced together the timeline from police reports, witness statements, and digital evidence. Her Facebook post became a key piece of the investigation, showing that she had publicly warned the world about her fear. Text messages and phone records painted a picture of a man consumed by jealousy, control, and rage. Forensic experts confirmed the 10 shots fired from the gun matched the weapon found in Wright's possession. It was a brutal and calculated act. The defense has not yet presented its case, but family members said Wright's confession left little doubt. He admitted to the shooting, and there was evidence of premeditation. The protection order, the calls to police, the clear warnings. None of it mattered to him. The justice system now faced the challenge of holding him accountable while acknowledging the failures that allowed this tragedy to happen. The case has sparked conversations across Minneapolis and beyond about domestic violence, stalking, and the limits of legal protection. Advocates have called for reforms, including faster response to protection orders, stricter monitoring of recently released violent offenders, and better coordination between law enforcement agencies. Mariah's death is now a stark reminder that fear, even when reported, can be ignored until it is too late. As the investigation continues, her children, friends, and community are left grappling with grief, anger, and questions that may never have answers. Her story has ignited outrage, but it has also become a catalyst for awareness and action. People now understand that the signs were there, and they are asking why no one acted in time. Her life and her warnings were not heeded, and her death demands that change happens before another mother disappears in the same way. Mariah Samuel's story does not end with the shots fired or the arrest of her ex. It lives on in the hearts of her children, her family, her friends, in the community that watched helplessly as a mother was silenced for speaking the truth. Her fear was real, her warnings were real, and her life reminds us all of how fragile safety can be, even when you follow every rule and take every precaution. As you watch this story, I want you to reflect on what Mariah went through. Think about the moments when she begged for help and was ignored. Think about the hours she spent feeling hunted, the adrenaline that never stopped, the love for her children that kept her moving forward even in fear. This is not just a crime. This is a warning, a call to pay attention, to protect, and to act before it is too late. If this story moved you, if it shocked you, if it made you feel the weight of what she endured, comment below and tell us where you are watching from. Share your thoughts about Mariah's story, your prayers for her children, and how the system can do better. Share this video with someone you care about, because awareness is one of the few ways we can honor her memory. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications if you haven't yet. We tell these stories because they matter. We remember the victims because they deserve to be heard. And we continue sharing the truth because silence allows tragedies like this to happen again. Mariah Samuels will not be forgotten. Her story is a reminder, a warning, and a call for justice. Let her life, her fear, and her courage inspire change. Let it make us listen harder, protect better, and fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. Because in the end, her voice may have been silenced, but the impact of her story echoes louder than anyone could imagine.